So good evening. Thank you for tuning into Nancy B's Adventure Diary. I hope you can see me well. Please, if you can't, just let me know so that I can actually maybe I can ask my cameraman to come and check me up. Just come and check and see that all is well so that everybody who is tuning in can see me. Okay. So today, I want us to talk about the issue of weight loss and indigenous foods. I know many of us who tune into this diary are of African descent or people interested in indigenous foods. Many of them are people maybe in Africa, that is the motherland, or in diaspora, or they could even be in the Caribbean, in the United Kingdom, in Canada, US, all over the world. And of course, in this time, there is renewed interest in indigenous foods. So I really hope that this discussion is going to be fruitful. Maybe we first remind ourselves what are indigenous foods. Of course, we have the very obvious. We have our indigenous grains, the obvious ones being like the sorghum and millet. And most of us eat it in the form of a cooked solid meal or in the form of a porridge. I know some of us actually ferment it. And we also have teff, which is mainly found in Ethiopia. And it's used to make the Ethiopian injera. I hope I'm right. If teff is used to make injera, please just confirm by typing a comment on the comment section down below. Also, we have, apart from the indigenous grains, we also have our indigenous vegetables. Most of the time, they are called the African indigenous vegetables or African leafy vegetables. They are a bit different. Again, we have the famous amaranthus, which is commonly called terere in many parts of the world, or in especially in East Africa, or mchicha. We also have the black nightshade, which is called managu. We also have the crotalaria or mito. We also have cowpeas. Then apart from the indigenous vegetables, we also have our own indigenous fruits, which we don't talk about. I don't know if you remember, we used to have bananas that used to have black seeds inside. We had indigenous bananas before the modern bananas came. We also have our guavas, which don't grow so big. I remember when I was a child, the guavas used to grow everywhere. They were all over. And yeah, we could eat them even on the path, on the way to school and back. Apart from the guavas, we have we also have our indigenous legumes and nuts. If you remember the bambara nuts, there were lots of stories about the monkeys who went to eat the bambara nuts. We also have our own indigenous groundnuts. Yeah, there's somebody flying a plane over. Maybe I'll let it last a moment or so. Then we continue. So that is what we've been having for a long time in our own setting. And then, of course, we've recently adopted something that we often think is indigenous, but I'm not sure that it's indigenous. We have this maize and beans combination. It is very popular in East Africa. That is often called githeri or any other name you call it in your locality. But I know it's widely eaten in East Africa, and especially for lunch in schools and other places. So that is mainly maize and beans. We also have our traditional tubers. I know the yams are very popular in West Africa. In East Africa, we also have our own kinds of tubers. We have the arrowroot, which is very popular. It's called, I think, nduma. And I think in many places, nduma has replaced many breakfasts. People are now eating nduma instead of bread. We also have sweet potatoes, and I think sweet potatoes are eaten globally and in all parts of Africa and even Europe and Asia. And these crops, even if you are not resident in Africa, you are able to buy them wherever you are. Sweet potatoes are available globally. And these other foods are available in specialized shops. Like in Europe, you'll find what people call African shops or Asian shops, and you'll find that these are widely available. So these foods we eat all the time, and of course the fundamental question is that can they help us lose weight? Because I know many of us who watch this channel are interested in weight loss. Can they help us lose weight? Can they help us maintain weight once we've lost it? So these are some of the questions we are going to explore. And I think one of the things that is very important, maybe I need to introduce myself. If you're here for the first time, my name is Nancy. I do videos on weight loss, exercise, adventure like Kilimanjaro. I also bring people to the farm, and today I'm coming to you live from my farm. In the background, you can see my citrus fruits. All over, we are kind of just finishing the harvest. There are videos on the channel about the citrus fruits, and you can look at them in detail after this live ends. So of course, these citrus fruits are not indigenous, so I'll not talk too much about them in this video, but you can look at the other videos on the channel. And please, if you haven't subscribed, please just hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so that I continue bringing you this kind of content. So I'm glad you're here, and I want us to look now at the questions that I've been getting. So the first question is that are indigenous foods affordable and accessible compared to modern weight loss products? You know, what do you mean by a product? First of all, if this thing has passed through an industry, I consider it no longer really indigenous. It's processed. It has become more of an industrial food. So in the context of today's discussion, I'm talking about indigenous foods that even our ancestors can recognize. So if our ancestors cannot recognize this thing that is in a box or in a carton or in a bottle, then I don't want to refer to it as indigenous. Are they affordable? Yes, if you live, especially in the motherland, that is here in Africa, these crops are very affordable. The foods are very affordable. They're in the common markets. They're with your neighbors. You can grow them in your own backyard. They're available in the supermarkets or stores. And even I know globally, these foods are available. And like I said, if you can't get them, then you have to go to the African or Asian shops or Indian shops. Yes, I am concerned once you are in Europe and now you're going to those specialized African shops or Asian shops, they will be a little bit more expensive. But I think food is no longer cheap globally. So let us maybe look at it wholesomely. Yes, compared to the food that comes in our packet, I would say indigenous foods are affordable. And like I said, if you are in the motherland, they're even free, or some are things you just grow behind your house, or you get them from the market for $1 or $2. So how can someone create a weight loss meal plan using only indigenous foods? Yes, how can that be done? You have to be deliberate. I think I've done lots of videos where I have shown some of the foods I eat. And some of my favorite indigenous foods are the tubers. We have the cassava, we have the arrowroot, we have the sweet potatoes. So these can be the main starch portion of your food. And then for your vegetables, you can use some of our African leafy vegetables, such as amaranthus or black nightshade. And then for the meat portion of your food, I would suggest that you consider using indigenous African chicken, or just what we call in East Africa kienyeji chicken. So if you just adopt the kienyeji chicken, then it will be easy for you to have a full plate of vegetables, tubers, that is starch, and vegetables, starch, and meat, that is all African. We also have some of the other African smaller birds, such as quail, but I think those ones are a bit difficult to get. But the chicken is very easily accessible, and most people rear it in the backyard. And I would say really this is one of the best ones. So that is how you can have a meal plan. So of course you'll have to decide what you are rotating, and you can also incorporate indigenous fish from the lake, because once you start getting fish from a pond, it's likely not to be indigenous. But if you get fish from a lake, like Lake Victoria or so, chances are that you will get some good indigenous fish that is native to this part of the continent. So you can vary your diet by playing around with your different starches, proteins, and African vegetables. So another question. Today I'm trying to actually answer the questions I have been receiving about indigenous foods and weight loss. So do indigenous fruits have an advantage over imported ones when it comes to cutting calories? I would like to think about it as indigenous versus the exotic ones that have been recently introduced in our lives. Let me take the banana that I started talking about. If you've eaten the native banana, it's probably small, it's not so sweet, and some of those bananas even have seeds that look like stones. If you know the wild banana, then you know what I'm talking about. The modern banana that is exotic has been bred for years. It is big, it is so sugary and very rich in calories. So if you're able then to eat the options of the African foods, yes, I would say you will cut on calories, but also the amount matters. One of my favorite fruits, the African fruits that I really love, we have these gooseberries that grow in the bush. When you were children, when the maize was harvested, we'd just go into the maize and look for these gooseberries and eat them to our fill. Yes, they are really sugary, they are full of calories. So again, moderation and portion control will be important if you are actually looking to lose weight. So what role do indigenous vegetables and fruits play in controlling weight? So I would say that one, our fruits, like I've said, are not so sweet like the exotic ones that have really been bred, meaning they don't have so much sugar, meaning they don't have so many calories. As for the vegetables, this should be your number one friend if you want to lose weight. Vegetables are full of fiber, be they indigenous or exotic. But our indigenous vegetables, especially like now in my part of the world, amaranthus, black nightshade, and crotalaria, are really, really popular. They will fill you up without giving you calories. So that means you will be able to actually cut down on your calorie intake and ultimately lose weight. I've encouraged you in the past to always make sure your plate is at least, at the very minimum, a third full of vegetables. So if a third of your plate is vegetables, you're already cutting calories. And if you really want to cut them and lose weight, then you have to make half of your plate to have indigenous vegetables. I know they're a bit bitter, but there's one of the things that you should know: our indigenous vegetables have some kind of medicinal compounds. That is why they are a bit bitter. Because you'll find that in communities, in malaria zones where they eat these vegetables, they don't get malaria as often as the people who are not native to those communities. So please do not shy away from our bitter vegetables. They are the ones that will help protect you. So remember, they have medicinal compounds in them. So please enjoy our African indigenous vegetables. Make them at least a third of your plate. But if you want to lose weight, make our African indigenous vegetables half of your plate. I normally like eating my indigenous vegetables for lunch. And I'll probably eat them with some rice or some chapati or some ugali. For supper, I prefer maybe the mixed exotic vegetables. I'm just being honest about this. But sometimes I also eat them. And then, of course, if you like maize meal, the one that's called ugali in East Africa, or sima or sadza in the southern part of Africa, you will find that the bitter ones really do well. So I hope if you've not been eating our African indigenous vegetables, you will start eating them, and it will help you to lose weight. And there's no magic in this. The point is that they take up volume in your stomach and prevent you from overeating the caloric the rich calorie foods. So somebody is asking, do you think eating indigenous foods like vegetables, sorry, do you think eating indigenous foods like sweet potatoes or cassava always leads to weight loss? No. I think here the secret is one, first of all, we've gotten rid of industrial foods. We've gotten rid of processed foods. So when we start eating potatoes, sweet potatoes or cassava, we are already a step ahead. But one of the things I can tell you for free, cassava is so rich in sugar. Like for me, I can actually taste it the next morning if I eat it for supper. So if you really want to lose weight, then you have to practice portion control. So portion control is a must do of cassava, of sweet potato. And let me just mention that these African foods that grow below ground, the sweet potato, the cassava, the tubers, that is, the main reason they exist is to store food, to store starch, to store calories. So they are storing starch for the plant. So eat it in moderation. How much is a portion? Now, please, don't think that you'll eat a whole plate full of sweet potatoes and lose weight. Please remember, the measure of starch is the size of your fist. And if you really want to lose weight for a meal, I would say make it half the size of your fist. I know there's somebody who said the first time she saw how much food she was supposed to eat, when she measured it, she cried. So portion control of our African indigenous foods is a must. And if you do portion control, then they will help you. But please, don't eat a whole plate full of cassava or sweet potatoes. You'll not lose any weight if you do that. So another question, how much is too much when it comes to portions of maize and beans? I know many of us, especially in East Africa, we have really embraced eating maize and beans for even our breakfast, sometimes for lunch and supper. And in some communities, it is prepared dry. So that way you can always go in with your hand and pick and even eat like nuts. Yeah. Please, every time you pick a handful, those are calories. So how much is too much? I would say the only way to do it is to measure. Use a cup. If you use the cup or the glass that measures 250 grams, that is more than enough. If you want to lose weight, I would say make it half that glass. Or again, see what is equivalent to your fist. Again, if you want to lose weight, half a fist is what you need to eat of that beans and maize. So I know in these communities that love to have these beans and maize, be it githeri or nyoyo. If you keep snacking on it, my dear, you're piling on the weight. You are really going not to lose any weight if you keep snacking on the beans and maize. If it's for breakfast, get your measure for the breakfast, stop at that. If it's like a feast for breakfast, take that feast. No more snacking on maize and beans thinking it's harmless. Now, there's a question here. Are there indigenous foods that should be avoided for people with conditions like diabetes or hypertension? First of all, I'd like to give a disclaimer. I'm not a medical doctor or any kind of medical personnel. So the things I'm saying in this video are my own personal opinion and what I know from experience and research. So as I say them, please take them with a pinch of salt. And before you make any drastic changes to your diet, always consult with the doctor or medical practitioner. So I have found myself in the issue of indigenous foods. Should they be avoided? What I would say depends on what condition you're talking about. If your condition is a condition like where you have too much sugar or you have arthritis, if the problem is that you have too much sugar in your blood or in your body, then you have to control the portion of the African indigenous foods that you are eating. So again, you can't eat a whole plate full. You have to just eat a portion. And like I've already given you the measure of what a portion is. I believe if you stay within the portions, then you will steer clear of these problems or these diseases, these chronic illnesses. So what I would say is that, yes, if you have some of these chronic diseases, for example, don't eat a whole plate full of bananas just before bed if you have a sugar problem or diabetes. So portion control and just your common sense are going to be very useful. Have you ever tried checking your blood sugar with a glucometer after eating traditional foods? Yes, I have tried checking my blood sugar with a glucometer. Actually, I do have a glucometer, and in one of my videos on the main channel or on the main list of videos on the channel, I have demonstrated how to use a glucometer. And after testing the level of sugar in the morning after eating our African foods, from my own experience, I found that cassava gives me the highest raise, followed by sweet potato and arrowroots minimal. So I avoid eating cassava for supper, but I can eat it for breakfast in moderation. Then I have the whole day to be active and burn it off. Then that way I'm good to go. So I measure, and the only way to know which one of our African foods affects you adversely is to measure. So I always encourage people, especially if you are over 40 or over 50, to invest in a glucometer. I think in most parts of the world, it's about 20 US dollars or less or more, plus or minus 5. So it is generally affordable. And the place you buy it, they'll teach you how to use it. And then you can use it to measure your blood sugar every morning after you've eaten your African foods in the evening. Give it 12 hours where you don't put anything in your mouth, or 14, and then measure. Then you'll be able to rule out which one affects you adversely and which one does not. So somebody's asking, maize and beans are a classic bomb. Is it really a weight loss meal or a hidden sugar bomb? I think, like I've already said, eat the maize and beans using a measure. And if you're not sure whether your measure is working, measure your glucose the next morning. Eat them for supper, give it 12 hours to 14 hours, and then measure your sugar levels in the morning. Then you'll be able to know whether it's a bomb or not and how it works with you. But for free, I can tell you that maize is purely starch, so that is sugar. Beans have some protein, and a big component of them is also starch. So treat them like you treat any other starch portion. Again, the starch measure is always a fist or that glass I talked about. If you want to lose weight, half of that. Can you eat green bananas for dinner? And how many bananas should you eat? You know, green bananas, I don't know what size that is available in your country. For example, in some parts of the country, we have green bananas that are half the size of my hand if you are to measure this way. So that one, if that is the size of the green banana, I would say maybe you should just eat one. So you cook. So it means maybe you are counting like 4 to 5 pieces. That is your measure for your dinner, bananas. If you eat two, maybe you are getting to about 10, 12 pieces. That is now on the higher side. So if you really want to lose weight, I would say nobody should be eating excess banana for dinner. I would say keep it to one, the equivalent of one medium banana that I demonstrated. If you come from those countries, like I know some of our countries have giant bananas, then make it half a cooked banana. I know that sounds painful, especially for our sisters from Uganda and brothers who love banana, matoke in everything. Yes, too much of it will make you gain weight. You'll not lose any weight. So if you eat too much banana, it will definitely stall your weight loss. Allow me to take some water. So I'm just taking water. I'm not taking any sugary drink. And as we continue, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to the channel and also give this video a like. Give it a thumbs up. Somebody's asking, should we boil or deep fry our indigenous foods? Which one do you think makes or breaks our weight loss journey? Every time you fry food, you're adding calories to it. And remember, calories in fried foods, the calories from fat that you are adding to the food are more than twice the calories in the food. So if you take our African foods and deep fry them, you're almost tripling their calories. So definitely, weight loss is not going to proceed as you hope. I know one of the really favorite delicacies people like is fried cassava. And many times it's a popular street food in many parts of the world. And some people even have the habit, every time you are going home, as you wait at the bus stop, you buy a small packet of fried cassava and you go home with it, or you eat it on the bus as you go or as you drive through the traffic. My dear, you're just piling on calories. Please, if we have that habit of fried cassava, I know that those, they cut it in such narrow, nice strips and then they fry. So it's like every time you eat, you want more and more. You're piling on calories, you'll not lose weight. So the problem is not the cassava in this context. By just deep frying, you've almost tripled the calories. So I would say, don't fry your African foods. Cook them with as minimal oil as possible. Personally, I just boil them with water and a bit of salt. And then that way, I think my measure of a fist or half a fist can apply. But once you now deep fry them, it becomes a completely different story. So another question, is it possible to combine indigenous foods with modern foods for effective weight loss? From my experience, yes. And many times you'll find me eating like I eat the arrowroots with some meat and some cabbages. So those are modern foods combined with indigenous foods. And once you train your tongue, you'll get used to it. And I also I eat many times even rice with my bitter indigenous African vegetables, and I really enjoy them. And I know there are those who will tell me I didn't mention their vegetables. We have the ones called saga or the spiderweed. That one is extremely bitter, and it's one of the ones I really like. You just need to train your tongue, and I enjoy it even with modern foods like chapati or even rice. I'm not really a pasta person. So mostly you'll find me eating a bit of maize meal, but mostly rice and chapati in small quantities. There's no magic there. Small quantities. So you can combine them with modern diets, with modern foods, but please mind your portion. So I think one of the things I'm trying to emphasize is that for these our African indigenous foods, many of them are rich in starch. And this is the part of the diet that really makes you pile the weight. You know, many of us think it's the fat. It is actually the starchy part of the diet. Because what happens is the excess starch or carbohydrates that you eat, such as excess arrowroots, maize, rice, beans, the excess, when it gets to your body, it's converted to, first of all of it is converted to sugar. And then the body uses what it can. What the body is not able to use is converted to fat and stored. So most of us actually put on our weight from carbohydrates, not the actual fat. So that is the portion to watch. So please mind the portion of our African foods. Somebody is asking, which one of our African vegetables are superfoods that people often overlook? I think what I can say about the indigenous vegetables, I cannot call them superfoods in the context of how much they can help you lose weight. But what really makes them super are those additional nutrients they combine. They are so rich in nutrients. They also have medicinal compounds in them. Like I said, some are even known to protect people from some diseases. So that is what would make them superfood. But you have to eat them applicably. And I wish my timekeeper would be telling me how we are doing on time, so I don't keep you for so long. But I really want us to really discuss about that. Another thing that I would want to talk about is how we eat our African foods. Especially those of us who grew up in the motherland. We would wake up in the morning and eat our portion of maize and beans and maybe run to school. So you find that you are eating a whole plate of maize and beans. And then you come home for lunch, it is boiled cassava. You eat a whole plate of boiled cassava. And then it's supper or dinner, you come and eat again a whole plate of cooked green bananas. So I think because we were young, we were always running up and down. We ate this very rich, this diet that was very rich in starch, and we really didn't put on weight because I think we were busy. You know, before you go to school, you have already cleaned where the cows sleep. You are carrying dung on your head. You are doing this. You are sweeping. You are running up and down. You come home at lunchtime. Maybe you have to do a chore. Maybe you have to run for water in the river, and then you have to run back to school. You come back in the evening. You start doing other chores in the home. You are ferrying water. You are ferrying firewood. You are lifting. I think as much as our African foods were very rich at that time in those carbohydrates, we really didn't put on weight because of the way we were living. But now we've grown older. I can assure you, if you eat a whole plate of maize and beans in the morning, a plate of cassava for lunch, and another plate of green bananas for supper, you will grow fat, you will put on weight, and you might even get a disease, one of these chronic diseases of aging. So what I can assure you, the time has come for us, if you're older, if you're watching this, to moderate the portion. Personally, I prefer not to eat them more than twice a day. And most of my dinners will just be those, either I'll have either African vegetables with some meat or exotic vegetables with some meat. So that is what mostly my diet will be. I cannot eat the portion of African foods I ate for breakfast, lunch, and dinner when I was 20 or 15 years old. So I can say that how you eat them matters. And one of the things that is important is that there's a theory that when you clothe carbohydrates with another food, that is a protein or a fat, you slow down the rate at which it enters the bloodstream. So if you clothe your carbohydrates with proteins or fat, it means they will enter the bloodstream slower and you will feel full faster. So you will not overeat them. So when you combine our African foods with either a protein or some fat, and this way you will not overeat them, and then you are fine. So I think one of the things we need to re-examine is the manner in which we are eating our African foods. And for those who want to lose weight, I'm advising you, please clothe them with a protein or a fat and add our African indigenous vegetables. If you don't really like our bitter African vegetables or indigenous vegetables, you may get exotic vegetables. And what I can assure you, like for example now, amaranthus and black nightshade has global demand. So we are no longer talking about limited or only demand in the African populations. So please, I think, diversify, eat more vegetables, and clothe your carbohydrates. I know one of the other questions that keeps coming up is whether you should eat brown food or you should eat white food. Personally, I grow maize, and I grow red maize, yellow maize, and white maize. And I can assure you, when that maize is digested, all of it turns into sugar, and excess turns into fat. I know somebody's asking, is there red maize? Yes, there's red maize. One of these days, I'm going to show you the red maize. And we also have yellow maize. I think many people are more familiar with the yellow maize. So all these African foods, be they red, be they brown, be they white, once they enter the stomach, they turn into sugar, and your body doesn't care whether your African food was yellow, white, or red. What it knows that it's sugar, and it's going to use what it needs, and the excess it's going to store. So if you're liking this video, please give the video a like. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. One of the questions I've been asked is whether I take brown porridge. If I want to eat our millet or sorghum products, I prefer to eat them in the solid form, a kind of brown ugali. Because the problem is that in the porridge form, you've made the surface area very large, because the molecules are very small already. So it will enter your bloodstream so fast that it will raise your sugar so fast, and the body will receive an instruction from a hormone called insulin: store, store, store. And how it stores sugar is convert into fat and store, convert into fat and store. So I prefer not to drink my African foods. I eat them solid. And I find that the best way. Because also, if you eat them solid, you feel full for longer. But if you eat them liquid, for example, in the case of the brown porridge, you will soon be hungry. And then you will want more of the same porridge or another food. So you will not have helped yourself in that regard. So those are some of my thoughts about our indigenous our indigenous foods and weight loss. I don't know what you think. Please leave a comment down below. Tell us what you are eating in your country. Is it helping you manage your weight loss? Is it helping you to sustain weight loss? How is it working for you? I really want to hear this. And maybe next time I'll take you on a live tour of the farm. That I hope will be interesting to you, because here on the farm I'm growing all sorts of fruits. I have many in the orange family. We have the citrus, we have oranges, we have pixie, we have maniola, I have lime, I have lemon. I don't know what you would like, but next time I'll take you on a live tour. But for now, there are videos on the channel about the farming that is going on this farm. I'm planning yet to introduce the indigenous foods on a larger scale. At the other corner, which I can't show you right away, I've had some small amounts of sweet potato, small amounts of pumpkin, and small amounts of cassava, but they've been mainly for domestic use. So maybe once I start growing the African foods on a larger scale, I will show you. But meanwhile, there's plenty to see. And I also have some exotic fruits. I have the dragon fruit. If you haven't eaten dragon fruit, please Google. That is a desert plant. I also have the pomegranates. These are the fruits that made the Israelites want to go back to Egypt. So all this is in the other previous videos. You can have a virtual tour of the farm then. And then next time I will do a virtual tour of the farm that is a live tour. I'll plan for that when the time is right. Otherwise, thank you so much for hanging out with me. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for always coming back to watch my videos. See you in the next video.